panel we're doing about three panelists, three startup, 3-minute pitches. This time we're focusing on corporate travel. We'll let people join. The attendees are coming on board, but we will start just with the introductions. So we'll do it after the introductions, no problem. So I want to introduce these 3 speakers that we have, the panelists. The first one is Miriam Moscovici. She's the Senior Director of Research and Corporate Innovation. In her current role as a Senior Director, Miriam leads research and introduces concepts aimed at engendering a culture of innovation throughout the organization. Her industry experience and technology savvy combined with provocative communication style, and she would show us this during this panel, I'm sure, keeps her in high demand as a speaker, panelist, and judge. She was named a 2018 Corporate Travel Innovator at SCIF. So Miriam, please join us. Turn on the camera and unmute yourself. Next person is Utpal Kaur from CWT, Senior Executive of Global Hospitality, Travel, Technology, and Innovation Strategy. Utpal led the innovation and new product incubation at CWT and has previously held several leadership positions at Expedia and No1. He is an innovation expert based in Silicon Valley. Utpal, please join us. And the third speaker is Ilan Twig, co-founder and CTO of TripAction. In his current role, Ilan oversees product development and the engineering team of TripAction. With almost 2 decades of experience in engineering, Ilan led large research and development team at both HP Software and Rockmelt. Most recently, Ilan founded Stream1, with TripAction's CEO Ariel Cohen, a business multimedia integration platform, which was eventually acquired by Jive Software, where he worked as the EVP of engineering before founding TripAction with Ariel. Ilan, please join me as well. Hi, everybody. So we're gonna start. Miriam, you didn't write there also in your bio that you were Miss Denver in 1995, no? After you won the Skift Award, no?
No.
Anyway, so
teasing me.
So thank you for joining us. We don't have much time. Let me just say about the format. First of all, a quick poll for the attendees. While we are talking here and explaining how it is, I'm launching the poll. Have a look, just so we know who you are. There are 2 questions in the poll. And if you don't mind answer them, it will be nice for us to see it. But the panel is, the concept is very simple. We're gonna talk about 25 minutes about the challenges in the industry, specifically innovation size, and specifically what you've seen, the differences between maybe mid-March, early March, and beginning of April and on. I don't want to speak about all the terrible things about COVID-19 and all the people that were laid off and furloughed, et cetera, and all the jobs that are disappearing, but really talk about the impact and how you're adjusting to it, especially from a technology and innovation, and how the high-tech community and the industry can benefit from each other. So let's just look quickly at the polls. I was asking in the polls, you guys can look at your own, if you just click on the polls at the bottom, you can see the answers. But the first one, are you a technology professional, travel industry professional, consultant, or other? So we have travel industry professionals, we have 72% of the people, technology professional at 21. And then I asked, are you employed at the moment? 77% of the people said yes, 23 said no, which is probably better ratio right now than if you just pull the general TMC or the business travel environment. So let me end the poll here, and let's start with our first question. So can you please share with us how did the world change from you from the beginning of March to the end of March, or beginning of April, and specifically, how did you change your priority from an innovation perspective? So what kind of thing were you working, everything that you can share with us, of course, what were you working on before, at the beginning of March, as far as product development? What were you trying to launch versus what are the things that you're working on now? Are they same? Are they different? And you can just give us one or two of those. Miriam, can we start with you?
Well, I think the timing was really interesting in that, the February timeframe, the early March timeframe was when we were all having kind of our, we were all working with a new budget. We were working with 2020 plans, and we had, an entire succession of development efforts for the entire year. I won't say that things have been necessarily stopped, right? I think things have been reprioritized since that time. Early March was very tactical, at least at BCD, right? What we do as travel management companies, I think my colleagues will agree, right, is a lot of what we do is prepare for exactly what happened. It is the first time it's happened globally, all at the same time, kind of cascading in slow motion. But a lot of what we were working on in March was sort of redirecting all of our priorities or all of our resources to helping clients shut down programs, engaging with travelers to bring them back home safely, and start to assess, I won't say a damage report, but more, where are we now? It was all about information. It was all about putting in motion those plans that we have for clients, that clients have put in place. Now, I think that the priorities have shifted and that we've accelerated a few things. I think a big priority for clients is always going to, or when I say clients, I mean corporations around the world. Their priorities really right now are around, obviously, duty of care, access to information, which is fluid and changing, and those variables are constantly changing. I can say the word information, and anyone in the audience can make their own assumption as to what that means. Is that an airport, a country, et cetera? So shifting priorities to be able to bring that information together. Lots of those sources don't exist today. I think that's one big priority that shifted. Helping clients with understanding their risk profile and understanding what decisions they need to make. The decision about, do I stay or do I go? The calculus is changing right now, and working on solutions that help our clients make those decisions, both the clients as a travel program and also travelers individually. I think those are two big areas. I will say also, there's some emerging changes we think are going to happen with business travel in general. And one category I'll just throw out there that's interesting and I'm thinking a lot about is corporations are telling us that they see a huge increase coming in driving your own car and rental cars. Managing fleets of vehicles and high rental cars isn't something that's existed in business travel, at a corporate level since, the late 90s, early 2000s. It's really kind of gone down. And so there's going to be emergence in some modes. And I think that's one of the things we're looking at in innovation is how is the profile of the traveler going to change? How are the modes and distribution of transportation going to change? So, there's a lot up in the air right now in that category. But I don't know. I think early on it was very tactical, executing plans that we all have. Now it's about kind of revealing the new needs that clients have. My colleagues could probably add a lot more.
Thank you, Miriam. Ilan, you are the new kids in the block, okay? Digital native, TMC. Would you echo the kind of challenges that Miriam was facing, or is it a little bit different? You are very technical. I mean, most of your development, if not everything, is done in-house, I assume. So what specific thing were you working on before versus now?
Yeah, well, I think, being any service provider in the travel industry during this time, you got impacted. And I think this is something that we all share in common, whether you are a TMC or a hotel or an airline, you really were in the front line and you got hit pretty badly. And it's almost like overnight you wake up and you're like, oh, I barely have revenue suddenly. And that's I think, something that happened to all of us. And the way we responded to that was, first, we realized, okay, there's no revenue. And second, we realized, okay, we got hit, but all of our customers actually got hit as well. And they will feel it maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. A lot of them, those that are not in the travel industry. And so we had this 2-3 weeks to actually respond. And what we've done was on 2 layers. One was on our own financials. And I don't know if some of you noticed, but last week we announced a funding round of $125 million, which brings us to close to $400 million in cash in the bank. We did that to reassure our customers, reassure prospects, and also give us maximum flexibility to do whatever we think is right in the next 3 years, assuming no revenue, let's say. And the second thing is, the needs of our customers have changed radically because, as Miriam kind of mentioned, there was a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty. The reality kept changing every day. And, while most, most travel agencies have a duty of care solution, I think that what we've done is the next step of that. And we said, okay, restrictions keep changing every day. So as a business travel manager, if you want to take advantage of the existing business, of the existing duty of care solution that you have to go there and keep adjusting and changing and adjusting and changing. And it's very, very difficult. And this is not what you want to do. So what we've done, we actually connected our duty of care solution to local government sources, to the CDC, to the World Health Organization. And you as a business travel manager, if you choose to, you can just tick the box of the Corona policy, we call that. And if you check this box, everything gets populated directly from these websites into your travel program, into your duty of care. So for example, you can have a live view of travelers that got back from recently, in the last 14 days, got back from countries that the CDC marked as a no-go zone. And so the next click would be reach out to them and tell them, hey, make sure that you have still 6 days to quarantine before you get back to the office, et cetera, et cetera. So I really think that going back to what you mentioned in the beginning, being a travel agency and a tech company combined gives us this ability to not only run, talk to the customers and understand what they need, but also turn that into an action, into a product within the same 24 hours. And so really, I think that we took what...
what do you do when, you mentioned the duty of care. So if you're BCD and CWT and other of the traditional, obviously they don't have as much of technology resource for in-house development. I mean, do you guys do everything in-house? So you raise quite a lot of money, you have quite a lot of people, but there are other people that maybe do better than you do specific things within your needs, especially when things are fluid and change like this. Do you do everything in-house, or do you do some of the stuff? Do you look for collaboration with other technology providers?
I think it's an excellent question. What we do in-house, so our booking tool and our back office solution and the admin dashboard and all of these, the duty of care is all proprietary solutions. We definitely do integrate to a lot of service providers, but I'll give you a very specific example. One of the data points that was really critical for business travel managers to assess the risk of a certain place during this COVID-19 situation was this thing that everyone talked about at some point, was the R number or the R factor or the reproduction number. And this is basically how infectious the virus is at the moment or how fast it's spreading. You want this number to be below 1. As long as it's above 1, it's an exponential growth. If it's below 1, the virus is slowing down. The problem that we ran into was that this data source did not exist. And we definitely did want to pull it and show it in our product. So the first thing we've done is we connected to the #1 source of everything Corona by the numbers, and it's the Johns Hopkins University. They became the #1 source of coronavirus by the numbers. How many new cases per country, per state, deaths, ratios between deaths and the population, etc. The R number was not published anywhere. So to your point, what we've done, we went ahead, we took our data team. Turns out that one of them was epidemiologist. So we took advantage of that. We took the existing epidemiological models. We took all the data that we have, we plugged it into those formulas, well-established formulas. And now we are the only company in the world, as far as I know, that provides this number, that provides a random access to this number per country, per state. And obviously, we plugged it into the booking tool as well as the admin dashboard, so business travel managers can assess, looking at that, looking at local government restrictions, looking at all of this data in one place per country or per state allows them to really make decisions, or helps them to make decisions. And what we've done is we took it to the next level, and we said, we have this data source, we're going to share it. So we created a public page on our website where anyone can just go there and say, I want to travel from here to there, and we will immediately pull the relevant data, the restrictions, the R number and everything, and show it to you, so you can make a decision, or it can help you make a wiser decision about your travel.
And what were those people working on before? So the people that you pulled off one
the data
project,
team?
yeah,
I can give, they were
just
not
just for an example to see the difference between the kind of thing you had to work on in March
Absolutely.
and the thing in the end of March, right?
Absolutely. So in the beginning of March, no one in the data team was working on any epidemiological models. I can tell you that for sure. But what they did work on was we enhanced our hotel booking prediction. So on flights, we managed to do a really good job. And in 94% of the bookings, you will end up booking one of the top 10 results that we show you. And this is using machine learning. And then the next project was hotels. We were running a few iterations on that. So definitely that was one area. And the and the other area was around helping the sales team with predicting how much companies spend on travel. And it's amazing because oftentimes we know better than the customers.
Yes.
So yeah, we had to shift priorities. We have to take them off of the running projects, and we totally tailored them for I think for like 5-6 weeks. I was working daily with the data team on understanding Corona, understanding what it means, understanding the numbers, understanding the data sources, what's available, plugging it all together. It started as an experiment, but it ended up with being part of our product offering, as well as a public offering that everyone and anyone in the world can now go and see. If I want to fly to Tel Aviv, what's the R factor look like? And how did it look like historically, and kind of like make a wise decision.
Perfect. So Utpal, if I summarize a little bit what Miriam and Ilan were saying, Miriam talked a little bit that they had to help the travel agent to, close down location, bring back the people back safely home, decide where they should stay. Ilan was talking a little bit more about information, which Miriam touched about it as well. I mean, have you guys seen something different? What were you guys working on before versus what is really important now?
Sure. Thanks, Miriam and Ilan. It's fascinating to listen to you guys. But before I answer your question, Ram, just wanted to preface it with, what I'm going to say here is purely my personal view on how things are going to pan out, or how this has impacted business travel sector in particular, not necessarily that of CWT. So this whole COVID thing took, first of all, there is no precedence to something like this happening. So when 9/11 happened, the concern was security. At that point of time, we knew once there is enough security apparatus in place, it should be safe to travel. The financial recession in 2009, we knew once the banks were recapitalized, you will have some form of recovery. So we've had some kind of predictive models in all previous recessions. This is the only recession, we probably are in a recession right now, it's not just public yet, that there is no historic precedent. We simply do not know if this is a 3-month phenomenon or a 3-year phenomenon, or if it's going to be there for all times to come. And the consideration then becomes when, let's say, the vaccine comes end of this year, early next year, and business travel is on the way to recovery, hopefully in Q3 of this year onwards. What does that recovery look like, and what is going to be the new normal? And I was talking earlier last week actually to Miriam, and she pointed me to some research that BCD has done, and this is some research that also McKinsey has done. The duty of care becomes a very critical component of corporate travel policy or the offering from TMCs to the clients. Duty of care can have many implications like access to information. Today it's COVID, tomorrow it could be something else, and we simply do not know if COVID goes away magically 6 months from now. Is a minor scare somewhere going to trigger the same amount of travel reduction, or is it going to be like H1N1 where people factored this in and assumed the risk? There's a whole lot of unknowns.
Where do you say duty of care was as a priority at the beginning of March versus where it is now?
No, actually what I said was duty of care has always been one of the factors in the product offering, but now it's literally on the top.
I understand, but now you're saying it's the top. You would say that it was before third, fifth, kind of ballpark.
I mean, it is one of those facts. It's like a hygiene factor. I don't think there's enough research for me to comment one way or the other where it fell in that stacked ranking, but it's anybody's guess. If you were to ask me if I had polled people 6 months ago, what are your top key asks from a corporate travel program, I'm pretty certain that duty of care would not have been number one. And when I say duty of care,
it's always been top three. I don't mean to interrupt you. It's always been top three, but always in the first two positions were things like policy and savings, cost savings. And things like cost savings went way down towards the bottom of the list, and things like duty of care and traveler care are now kind of the top two priorities of corporations. That's what the data we're collecting. Go ahead, Utpal.
Ilan, do you concur? I mean, for what you see is the same? And because I would think, you know, as I used to run corporate travel for Las Vegas Sands, I always say that's the most painful part of my job. Most ungrateful one. And I would not say duty of care was that important. You know, the first time I saw duty of care was when we had to set a policy if people can take taxis or limousine and where they're going, and then if it's a female or a male, and if it's dangerous or not. Maybe just because we were going to a very specific area all the time, you know, to Las Vegas, Macau, Singapore. But duty of care was not really, I would not have put it as top three, to be honest.
No, I fully agree with my colleagues here. Duty of care is always a very, very high on the list, always. It always has been, and it still is. And I think now fully concur with what Utpal said, that it's becoming, and what Miriam said, it's becoming really the number one thing. I think that, you know, that it definitely is time to rethink duty of care and to use a lot of the technology that is available to all TMCs, right? To go ahead and enhance it and enhance it and enhance it. And I think what we've done in early March during the gradual decline, when reality kept changing, right? It wasn't too long ago, but it was very confusing, right? It was a really confusing time where suddenly you check the CDC and Italy, from a beautiful summer destination, turned into recommended not to go because there were 250 cases there, and maybe there is an outbreak there. And then 2 days later, it's a no-go, do not go. And then within 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, all flights from Europe were banned to America, right? And that's how the reality kept changing. I think a duty of care 2.0, where you use technology and data to help the system and help the business travel managers to really understand what is it that they're dealing with. For example, COVID-19 and how it evolves, it definitely is changing differently and evolving differently in different countries. And you cannot look on what happens in, for example, in Iran, and just project that to what happens in China and say it's the same restrictions, the same approach, because it's not.
So if you look at this, and a question for all three of you, if you look at the pandemic, what kind of thing, if you give me one thing that you feel that is very top priority and it will stay like this for a long time, versus maybe something that is a top priority now, but maybe not so sure it's going to stay a top priority for your client, for the corporates?
I can take a stab while my colleagues think more. I think, for example, all of the stuff that we've developed specifically for assessing the nature of the virus and how fast it spreads, I don't think this will last forever. I think it will be a few months thing, up to a year maybe. That's obviously my personal point of view. I do think that the technology behind it will serve us and serve our users on other aspects. For example, even now with the protestations that are happening in the US and all over the world, we were able to, we are connected to the local government restrictions. So we plug this information as well into the booking tool, the duty of care back office, etc. I think that duty of care will not change. Duty of care will always be there. It will just get manifested differently in different times, but it's always, always, always a really important component in managing corporate travel.
Utpal, Miriam, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree with Ilan. This renewed focus on duty of care and what other elements could be bundled into the current product offering is going to be the focus, at least for the foreseeable future. The other thing that I wanted to also allude to is what Miriam briefly mentioned. We're probably going to see a renewed focus on ground transportation. You know, in most of the travel companies, ever since Uber and Lyft commoditized public transportation, we had seen a precipitous decline in rental car business. Now, with the COVID thing, it's my personal view, we probably will see a resurgence of traditional ground transportation like Hertz, enterprise rental cars and stuff, purely because it's a lot easier to certify a car has been sanitized as opposed to renting an Uber or a Lyft where you don't know who the previous person sitting in there was. I'm not saying it's going to completely go away, but there is probably going to be that comfort factor in renting a car or driving your own vehicle as opposed to ride-hailing services. The other thing is airlines have been very smart now with reviving their operations. So we'll probably see a little more, just like 9/11 changed the way we pass through security checkpoints with enhanced security measures. So we'll probably have to also get used to creating that personal hygiene kind of etiquette for the travelers, whether it's wearing masks or I don't know, a lot of airports have even started scanning passengers 2 hours before they board. So that part might be coming in the near term. So the way we travel today is probably going to change quite a bit. Is travel going to come back? Absolutely, sure. There was, I think, an example that I mentioned was, I was talking to someone who runs a startup in vacation rental industry, and vacation rental, as you know, it's discretionary travel. People don't have to necessarily go if they don't have to. But this year, Memorial Day traffic in some destinations was higher than Memorial Day traffic last year. It could be because there was a lot of pent-up demand. People have been constrained in their homes for 3 months. They just wanted to get out. Or it could be, manifestation that people are willing to kind of take risks as long as you know you're doing the minimum required social distancing and all of that, and just get on with life. So we might see a recovery in the leisure sector a lot quicker than what people think, and then that will also have a cascading effect on business travel sector.
Yeah, and just to answer your question.
Miriam, there is a question from the audience, which is a follow-up to this. So maybe you should take this and also answer what I just asked. But do you think duty of care is sufficient, greater than 50%, to give business traveler the confidence to promote flying again? Are there other priorities which you feel will help promote confidence in flying?
So that's a not related question. So there's a whole nother answer for that. But let me just ask your initial question really quick. And this is just a dose of just reality. Again, my opinion. I think a lot of us, as this unfolded, right, we had to kind of right-size the business for keeping the lights on, right, as a metaphor. I don't want to be dramatic here, right, but, right, revenue stopped and we had to do what we needed to do, and that meant kind of cutting a lot of resources. And so the honest truth to your first question is how do we prioritize things that we don't believe might have a long shelf life? That's really difficult, and you start to make a Sophie's choice. And here's an example. Elon was able to build a model around infections and infection rates, et cetera. He's got that skill set at his fingertips. We kind of looked at that and said, oh, geez, we're not going to take that one on. It's not right. For us, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's a really hard decision. The luxury you have, Elon, of doing some of these things that might not have longevity is terrific. But then again, I just want to challenge the premise. I think that a lot of what we're doing right now is going to live on. We have been, in business travel, we've been heading in the direction of travel personalization for the last 2 decades. We've been making promises about how we're going to make travel more personalized. We're going to make your shopping experience more personalized. It's going to look like the consumer experience, right? We've been talking about it for decades. And I think that, the lens of COVID infection, is it safe for the traveler? Every traveler is different. I might have aging parents at home. That changes the way that I look at traveling. I might have children. I might not. I might live alone. I might have my own compromise. So every traveler has their own calculus they go through. Right now, we're talking about COVID. It's a medical thing, and there's new information to be gathered. There's new ways for us to share that information in the booking flow, the decision flow while they're traveling to keep everyone safe and confident. But I think that applies overall to the way we want business travel to be in the future. So I think that this is just accelerated. People like me in my company go, ooh, because, this makes us have to leap a couple times to accelerate these personalization plans. We just happen to be personalizing to COVID, right, guys? I mean, it could be personalizing to a business traveler with children, and they have different calculus when they need to make a business trip. And so I think that the infrastructure we're doing is going to be repurposed. It's exactly the direction we've been heading. We just got accelerated. Our digital strategy was accelerated by COVID, not the CTO.
I have to say something right? wrong in response to what Miriam just said. A lot of the things that you described, Miriam, that should happen in the future of corporate travel actually happen in the present of corporate travel with TripActions. We really do question everything, right? We question the way duty of care is done, and we're saying it's impossible to work with it. What are you going to do? Go and update this thing every day? Go and read and research the coronavirus, read all websites of all local governments? It's impossible. So that's why we actually connected it and automated it. Personalized the booking has been something that has been in our platform from day one, and the statistics actually prove that it totally can be done, and it can be done very effectively. It takes 6 minutes to book a whole trip in TripAction, and that's thanks to the great technologies that are out there available to everyone to use. So with that, I just want to say that the way we prioritize, our work is not, we really don't optimize for longevity. We optimize for the customers and the customer needs, and customer needs change. Sometimes when COVID shows up, it totally did change, and it changed to all of them at the same time. So obviously we as a service provider immediately responded and were guided by the needs of the customers. That's the guiding star in the end. And so we really do not prioritize what we do based on longevity. It's not the way we operate.
Okay, perfect. So we're running out of time. So for the audience, the attendees, please keep on writing questions. I'm gonna ask a very quick question now for all 3 of you, and then we're gonna look at the startup. Each one gonna have a 3-minute pitch, so it's very quickly, and then we're gonna bring them on board, and then we'll see based on the question we get from the audience, based on what the startup did. I also want to speak. They're all Israelis speaking about the ecosystem. Miriam, I had a little bird tell me that BCD is also talking to some Israeli company about duty of care information, kind of what Elon was talking, they developed themselves. Not with you directly, but other people in BCD. So quickly, the question that I have is, as a change, what do you think is the best thing that COVID-19 brought to our industry? One thing. Utpal.
I don't want to be bearer of bad news, but there was, again, a McKinsey study that categorized the industries that have had the most harmful impact due to COVID. And right on top was aerospace, and right below that was travel and hospitality. So I don't think there's anything good that COVID has done. Of course, it has accelerated certain things, certain projects like duty of care and stuff. But on the whole, the impact has been quite dramatically negative. But fast forward 12, 24 months, would it have changed the way people search and consume travel? Sure, yes. And a lot of these things were probably long due. For example, cruise lines will probably need to rethink that whole operating model, which is not necessarily related to business travel, but generally in this travel spectrum.
I'll give you an example from the hotel industry. I know it's a terrible thing, but there's always, you don't let a good crisis go wasted, you know?
Yeah.
And if you look at the hotel industry, especially on the high end, you know, check-in was always, oh, it's personalization. We speak to you, we greet you, we give you the information. And it was very difficult to change the industry, the operator, the mindset, saying, you know,
Yes.
I don't want to check in at front desk. I want to go directly to my room. So some of the hotel did it with the chain, with the app. And now we see a lot of demand having this touchless experience that even guests that book through a travel agency that the hotel doesn't know anything about them, they're not loyalty. So you see all of a sudden a change that forced on a very traditional industry to innovate and do things differently. Otherwise, they're not going to last. And
Yes.
to me, it's a great thing. I think that it's don't do.
So, and which brings me to the next point I was gonna make. So fast forward 12, 24 months, we probably will also see a lot of adoption of robotic process automation technologies or hyper automation, where systems can essentially talk to each other. So the traveler is able to, at the drop of an app, figure out what they want to do, and you spit out a customized or a personalized itinerary, one-click book, which has all the information. So we will see a lot of those technologies being adopted, which is good in the longer term, which is also going to be very user-friendly. So that is, this process probably has been expedited due to COVID.
Yeah.
But again, it's not
Miriam?
something that's going to happen in 6 months.
Perfect.
No, exactly what he said. You know, optimizing for the return. You know, you go from a huge operation around the world with thousands and thousands of people, and you contract to zero business, and now we are looking at how we return for our clients in a way that makes sense. And so I think a lot of the automation, similar to what you just said, Utpal, is something we're looking at as we optimize for when we return. It doesn't make sense for us to return in the same exact way that we were before. And so looking for those opportunities. But I'm always a cheerleader, so I think there's a silver lining to some of this, and you know, bragging for a minute about the fact that one thing this showed us was that all that planning and all that investment and all that technology that has been put in place over the last 20 years, since kind of like one of the watershed moments of 9/11, all of that came to bear fruit in this incident. And we asked our clients, specifically a panel of buyers, we asked them their confidence level, and were they ready? Their readiness level for this. And I think something like 3/4 of people said that they were ready, that they were prepared. And so, you know, that reinforces the idea of travel management being important to businesses. That reinforces the reason that the three of us, you know, give our lives, our careers to this industry, right? So I think that's a silver lining, is that, you know, the plans that we put in place, the investments we made over the years in technology played out, and it was an orderly shutdown of one of the largest industries in the world. And I think it was a relative success in putting all those plans in place. And I think businesses see the value in managed travel, right? And in the duty of care services we provide, and being able to look after their workers. So I think there's a silver lining in that there was a success. It wasn't a disaster, right? I mean, the industry is a disaster, but the process of managing business travel through this was not, you know, things weren't on fire. Everyone wasn't crazy. It was an orderly procession. Wouldn't you guys agree? I mean, it sort of demonstrates, Elon's making a face.
I have a slightly different perspective here.
But very quickly, because we need to turn on to the startups.
It will be quick. To your question, what one positive thing COVID-19 did to the industry, and I think the one positive thing is it created awareness that outdated technology won't cut it anymore for successfully managing corporate travel. I think this is very clear. I think that we've seen it with our customers. We've had the most explosive months in the last few months on sales, because I think business travelers do talk and do share information. And if you have, you know, the good old duty of care solution, or you have the new one, and now I think it just created this awareness that technology can do a lot of stuff and technology can solve a lot of problems, and that it is absolutely needed in the world of corporate travel to successfully manage travel. There is no way back.
Absolutely agree. And Miriam, we had the discussion when things were really heated up, and we even wrote an article that was published in FocusWire about the importance of the innovation people in the industry today, because if this was 2008, those were the first people to be let go. And it's surprising that, yes, some company, there's still those people were let go. Some company I was surprised because they put a lot of effort into innovation, but they're different priorities. But many of them are still there trying to get ready for the day after, which is very encouraging. So let's just go to the startup. So please mute yourself. And I would like to introduce first Daniel Sarfati, who is the founder and CEO of Applango. Daniel is a passionate entrepreneur and inventor that creates artificial intelligence models applying to real-life management scenarios. Daniel is a doctor of industrial engineering from Politecnico di Milano. So Daniel, please go ahead and share with us your 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Daniel Sarfati, and I am CEO and founder at Applango. Applango is an AI solution for predictive analytics. We help call center predict customer behaviors. Today we're going to talk about how to help travel call centers predict the needs of concerned customers upon reopening after the COVID-19 crisis. What are going to be a traveler's main concerns? How should we handle them? Can we identify a potentially difficult customer? And most importantly, how can we help agents navigate the new challenges? A few words about the team. Other than myself, a doctor in industrial engineering and an expert in process and correlations, Bruno is our chief architect, and Dr. Samir Varma is a PhD in theoretical physics and an inventor of AI and algorithms. So Applango is about predicting behaviors. Why predicting? Because predictions are better than real time. Predicting issues means we can prevent them, which is much better than handling crises. Coming in early also makes sure that problems stay small and are easier to fix. And finally, through predictions, we have a chance to surprise and delight customers instead of dealing with unhappy ones. So, how does it work? Applango builds a history of all past events related to call center activities. Past bookings, complaints, recent activities, and so on. We then classify all customers into groups that are similar in terms of past behaviors. The assumption is that a member of a group will behave in the future in a similar way to other members in the past. Based on those assumptions, which include hundreds, if not thousands, of data points, we are able to predict future customer sentiment. This allows us to warn agents in case we foresee a problem in the upcoming calls. In extreme cases, we also produce a list of customers that are better handled proactively. So, in an everyday scenario, agents will be warned automatically when a potentially problematic customer is on the call, so they can act carefully and with knowledge. In extreme cases, and upon available call center capacity, we also indicate which customer should be handled proactively, and this is to avoid major crises. In conclusion, AI can predict customer issues. It is a faster and more effective tool in real time. It also avoids customer frustration, and most important, it allows for faster solution times, which mean lower cost, less agents, and happier customers. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Daniel Sarfati.
Thank you, Daniel. The next, and we'll be back in a second with Daniel. The next speaker is Amos Bar Yosef. Sorry. Just 1 second. The next speaker is Amos Bar Joseph. Don't see it. I'm sorry. See it now? Okay, I'm sorry for this. So the next speaker is Amos Bar Yosef, a PPE Honors Program graduate of Tel Aviv University. He's the co-founder and CEO of RubiQ. It brings a unique combination of business savvy from his years working in management consulting and shrewd tech orientation, working as an allocation algorithm consultant with large enterprise and local government. An avid traveler, Amos founded RubiQ to fuse two of his biggest passions, travel and solving big market inefficiencies. Go ahead, Amos.
Hey guys, my name is Amos Bar Joseph, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of RubiQ, a young startup on a mission to create a world with frictionless flight disruptions for everyone, everywhere. Now, first, let's talk about flight disruptions in the new normal. What we are projecting is that passengers will expect a contactless and self-service experience. This is mainly due to social distancing at the airport and crowded places. Second, travel companies and airlines will need to rely on an autonomous and automated recovery process. And this is mainly due to the manpower shortage our industry is experiencing. And finally, travel companies will need to forget everything they learned and rely on a new real-time data-driven approach. And this is mainly due to an environmental uncertainty. And this brings me to what RubiQ does. We help travel companies fully automate and optimize the disruption recovery process by enabling their passengers to self-manage the disruption. Already trusted by global brands such as IAG, Sky, and Iberia, and more, and funded by some of the best venture capitalists here in Israel. Now, how does the solution look like? So our disruption recovery platform is comprised out of two main components. One is our control panel for the airline's back office agents, which enables an automated recovery with cost optimization. And our passenger-facing side is our virtual assistant, which enables a self-service with enriched choice. Now, how does this magic happen? Through 4 simple steps. First, we monitor and identify the disrupted passengers using our monitoring panel. Then we find the optimal rebooking. We calculate the optimal rebooking for each passenger and notify them via email, SMS, and the airline's app. On the third stage, passengers open the notification and our virtual assistant comes to their aid, allowing them to respond through a conversation. And finally, the airline can have full control and visibility into the disruption using our control panel. Now, our control panel basically centralizes the entire recovery process for the airline and the travel companies, from monitoring the flights, detecting disrupted passengers, optimizing alternatives under business rules, notifying the passengers, etc. On the other side, we have our virtual assistant, which enables self-managed disruptions. We use conversational self-service technology to guide the passengers in the flow while we keep the workflows fully customizable by our clients, and everything under a personalized and airline-branded engagement. Finally, the technology behind the scenes is our proprietary rebooking optimization engine. We use advanced allocation algorithms to solve complex flight disruptions, to optimize hidden costs, and to provide personalized alternatives to each disrupted passenger based on its characteristics. Our vision is to become the one-stop shop for self-service disruptions, to provide flight rebookings, hotel accommodations and overnight delays, compensation and food vouchers, and so forth, and to provide travel companies with an end-to-end streamlined recovery process with everything centralized in one place while providing the passengers an holistic self-service experience. Now, if you want to be part of that vision, do reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amos. Last but not least is, I'll bring the next speaker. See him? So Ron Shalit. Ron is the founder and CEO of Supportomate. Ron has more than 15 years of tech industry experience, which started when he was a software developer in the coveted Israeli intelligence. In his most recent role, he was the director of product innovation of Persontics, where he managed conversational AI product for retail banks. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ron.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Shalit. I'm the CEO of Supportomate. And we're helping enterprises significantly reduce their operations cost by deploying an autonomous call center representative. Simply put, it's a robot that answers the phone. And the motivation behind it is very simple. The biggest budget item in every call center is payroll, and we can reduce this cost by deploying a robot. So you may ask yourself or ask me, aren't there already chatbots that can reduce the amount of calls incoming to the call centers in the first place? The simple answer is no, because all of the existing technology just don't understand how human conversations work. I want to show you what does it mean. So I took a few screenshots from conversations I had with the Expedia chatbot. I asked it to book me a flight from Tel Aviv to Chicago, and it was quick to understand my question, and it replied with a follow-up question, when would you like to depart? At this point, there's no flights coming outside of Israel, so I asked it when was the earliest flight available. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and it just reiterated the question. So I figured I may need to rephrase my question as an answer, so I answered as early as possible. That did not fly either, and the reason is that they just don't understand how conversations work. When they ask a date question, they expect a date answer. I want to show you how we at Supportomate solve this problem. Imagine a world where conversational AI is so sophisticated, it can actually replace the corporate travel manager altogether. I want to show you how this world would sound like.
Hi, Ron. I am the automated travel manager. Are you calling regarding your upcoming trip to Chicago?
Actually, I'm trying to book a flight to New York tomorrow, but there's no economy seats available anymore.
I see. According to our travel policy, I would need to get your manager's approval for a business class booking. Is Dan still your manager?
Actually, I already asked Dan and he approved it.
Hold on. I am calling Dan now.
Okay, I'll wait.
Great news. Dan approved you for business class travel to New York tomorrow. You can book on your app, or I can do it for you now.
If I can do it on my app, I'll do it later. This amazing level of conversation is what we already bring to multiple enterprises across the world, and we're looking for partners in order to bring it to the corporate travel industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ron. So for all the speakers and the startups, please unmute yourself, turn on the camera and join us. For the audience, if you have any questions, we have 3 questions right now. Maybe I'm just going to cover those questions very quickly because that's for the panel before. In the meantime, if anybody has a question for the startup, the technology that you have seen, and then we have a few things that I would like to cover. So I have 3 questions. Please, one of you choose which one want to answer the question. So the first one was the one before. Do you think duty of care is sufficient to give business traveler confidence and to promote flying again? Are there other priorities which you feel will help promote confidence in flying again? Who would like to take this question? From the panelists. Anyone?
I can take a stab at it. So duty of care essentially is a very broad category. So fundamentally, all TMCs are in the business of duty of care. But I think what the question specifically asks is the health and safety component of the duty of care product offering. It's not the only thing that will generate confidence in people from traveling, but it is a necessary condition for triggering business travel or all kinds of travel, if you will. There's a lot of other things that are at play here that go into creating demand for business travel, including companies' own policies. So essentially, I think Miriam pointed out in the previous discussion where we had, if you're required by a company to travel and then you catch an infection on the plane and then you have an old grandma at home and you give it to her and something bad happens, there is a liability. So there's a whole lot of considerations that go beyond just the simple duty of care that you provide that will determine consumer behavior. And having been in travel for a very long time, and Ram, you know this better than I do, it's very, very hard to predict consumer behavior. It can change literally on a dime, but it is a necessary condition.
I want to add to that. I think about yourself, whoever asked the question. If you now, wherever you live, you want to travel somewhere, what would you do? You would probably open the web and read, the local, the website of the local country from the government and try to see what's going on there. It's even better if you have a friend there or family, you'd probably call them and say, hey, what's going on? Is it safe? What should I expect when I land? What type of quarantine? How long? Where? And all of these things. So we think information and data, relevant data and relevant information would be a huge component in affecting, travel going forward, definitely in this transition time. So there's a duty of care, which we spoke about a lot, but there is also when you book a travel, you want to know what's gonna happen to me when I land. What's gonna happen? Is it allowed? Is it safe? You want to try to assess, is it safe? And what would you do? You would read and go to different websites and see how many cases, is it going up or going down? You will try to dig for this reproduction number, because if it's below 1, probably safer, above 1, probably less safe, etc. And that's why, we, at least at TripActions, we try to bring all this information into one place and help you make that decision. But definitely, I think that duty of care is not the only factor. It's, in the end, people need to make decisions, and you need to feel comfortable about it, and you need to assess the situation and make a decision in the end. So, I don't know, are you going to fly somewhere this summer? Are you going to have a summer vacation? I will, and I will choose the location based on how comfortable I feel with that destination. And I will try to assess it. And I will definitely use our public tool to at least to check all the obvious kind of like data points. And then if I can call a relative, I will. But to the question is, I think relevant and real-time data about the destination is very important.
Okay, so the other question, there was another question about duty of care, and then there was a question of personalization, but maybe we'll cover it when we speak to the entrepreneur that are in front of us. So before we start, so as you see, we have 3 entrepreneurs, they're all Israelis, and I just want to cover with you, each one of you can choose to answer which question you want. But first one, all of you are based in Israel. I mean, we chose you because you're based in Israel. Is this just because that's where you live, or are there certain benefits for being in this specific market versus other markets? Whoever wants to take this question, please try and take a stab at it.
Yeah, I can take that. So the reason why I'm based in Israel is because I live here. But I think that living inside of the Israeli travel tech ecosystem has pros and cons. First of all, in terms of the benefits that you have staying here in Tel Aviv and the technology hub of Israel, then you can have the opportunity to leverage a really dense network of entrepreneurs, innovators, travel tech players. Everybody knows each other. Everybody can share their experience. So for example, during COVID-19, where information is king, right? And other players' experience is crucial to decisions. Then sharing that information fast between that dense network help everyone, and especially entrepreneurs, navigate and reroute your existing strategies accordingly. And I think that's one of the key benefits that entrepreneurs can gain, and when you're living in a dense travel tech hub such as Tel Aviv in Israel. I think one of the cons, one of the difficulties, the challenges of living in Tel Aviv is the fact that we are far from everyone who's interesting to sell to. So this is one challenge. And second of all, the Israeli market is too small. So if you combine that two metrics or two characteristics, then you came to a realization that you need to be outside of where you live in order to understand whom you're selling to, what are their needs, how does the corporate travel market behaves in the US, and Europe? Is it totally different from the Israeli corporate market? Spoiler, the answer is yes, it's totally different. And you see innovative players like CWT or BCD or TripAction, they're using innovative technology. And does Israeli travel tech companies use the same technology? Maybe it's different systems, maybe they think different. So I think that one of the important aspects of an entrepreneur that is based in Tel Aviv, Israel, is to understand that people are acting differently abroad and they have different motivations and different characteristics. And you need to be aware of that and try to be present in your market that you're addressing as much as you can, even though that you are based outside of it.
Perfect. Thank you, Amos. And another quick question for you, maybe Ron or Daniel. I mean, all of you have experience and extensive experience from other industries, not from the travel industry. How do you compare the level of innovation, dealing with people, the willingness to innovate and try different things in the travel industry versus previous industry you worked with? Who would like to take it?
I'd be happy to answer that.
Perfect.
So, yes, well, you can notice that there is a difference both at the level of innovation, but mostly the willingness to maybe to adopt new things. And again, I think that the line was very much also this past COVID-19 crisis. Up until then, let's say frankly, everybody in every market was about selling the most they can. They were not, I mean, innovation, if it was for increasing sales, it was good. But in our case, where we sell products which are mostly for optimization and for making things better, more efficient, more streamlined, it was more of a challenge, especially in the travel industry. Other industry, and we've been servicing the call center market for a while, they are numbers people, right? And so making processes more efficient was about their bottom line. And it was more important than anything else. In the travel industry, especially what we lived up until March, it was, okay, let's get flights cheaper and let's fly 7 billion people this year instead of 6.5 billion people, which, I mean, I am all for more sales, right? That's fine. But the travel industry has an advantage, especially from my point of view, that it's not a niche industry, but it's a more confined industry than, say, telecom, right? If you're an airline or if you're an hotel chain or a travel agent, you know who your customers are, and it's a finite number of people that it's comparatively easy to handle through AI. And so, yeah, from that point of view, in that sense, yeah, I believe that there is much to do in the travel industry, and it's relatively simpler than, say, in the telecom industry or government, or which are dealing, with billions of people. There are telecom operators which have every day they're serving 100 million people.
Perfect.
So
thank you.
The numbers are different, right?
Yeah, the numbers, the attitude, the background of the people, it's a very people-oriented industry, so it's not always easy to innovate. So last quick question, Ron, maybe you can say, when you look at the Israeli ecosystem at entrepreneur in general, it seems that they are not as young as what you either imagine or what you see in other ecosystems. And I'm not talking just because they do 3 years military, because I'm not talking about just these 3 years. You see people that are, the young one are in their late 20s. And then you see people in the 30s and 40s, etc. And you see people that it's not their first gig or first startup or whatever it is. So why do you think it is like this?
Yeah, so first of all, I think it is widely believed that most of the successful entrepreneurs are young across the world, but people have in mind the likes of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, all of them were in their early 20s when they launched. But with that, in 2018, I believe it was a paper that was published in Harvard Business Review that reviewed the founders of successful entrepreneurs versus unsuccessful entrepreneurs of startups across the world, and they actually found that the average age of founders who founded the startups with the highest growth rate, the average age was actually 45. I think that like you mentioned in Israel, to answer your specific question, in Israel, as you mentioned, most people only start their university journey when most of the other world are already graduating. This means that when they come to graduate their university, they're already starting a new family, starting kids, and they're not in a position where they can take financial risk. With that in mind, the Israeli tech ecosystem is so vibrant, and the Israeli mindset has such tenacity, and many people like to say that Israelis have chutzpah, which is basically a version of, if I try to roughly translate it to English, it's brash, but a combination of brash and tenacity. This means that a lot of Israelis have seen the tech industry blow up, and they have this mindset of starting things on their own, which they have learned in the military, of being independent and confidence in themselves, of starting something new. But that means that because of the social situation, it means that they can only start trying, or some of them can only start trying only in their late 30s or even early 40s, once they have stabilized their family income and all of the rest of their affairs. Like I said, research have shown that this actually is a better approach, because you tend to take less risks or more of a calculated risks. And I wish that the venture capital industry, especially in the United States, will follow suit and will understand this data, because I think it was Y Combinator that once have set a cap to the age of the entrepreneurs. Probably today it's not PC to do something like that, but this is changed. The concept of being a young college kid entrepreneur I think is rapidly changing in today's world.
Ilan, do you have anything to add? As a previous Israeli, maybe it's because it's a more mature market as well, and people have more than one startup. So sometimes we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs that it's not their first startup, and they sold one, or maybe it failed, they tried another one. And after this, please, if you have questions for the specific product, or you have anything to add, Utpal, Miriam, or Ilan, please go ahead, because we are running out of time. We basically ran out.
I've been out of Israel for the last 15 years, but I can only agree with at least from my perspective, which is very limited. I started TripActions when I was 42, definitely not in my 20s. In my 20s, I was, rightfully so, I was still busy with, I was an officer in the Israeli army, so I had to serve a few extra years there. And then after that, you just start your life, right? You go to college. And then I met someone, and we started to, so it's like life starts later. And yeah, and then I moved to America, and it took me some time to start my own network here. And ultimately, when I was 40 plus, I was ready to do it big time. And that's when TripAction started. It's a different ecosystem. There is a lot of, it's just different, and it definitely creates space for different type of entrepreneurs. And, I'm listening to...
But do you think it was more difficult or easier for you to raise money because you were older? Kind of going back to Ron's point.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the market. So my two startups were in the enterprise industry. And I think that when it comes to enterprise, there is a more openness for older entrepreneurs, because there is a lot of knowledge that you need to carry with you when it comes to enterprise. How do you sell to enterprise? You can't just read a book about it. I do think that it is that there is more, that it's easier. Like my first company here with our real coin, Stream Once, would not have materialized in Israel. So I think that there is something about the ecosystem here in the Silicon Valley. It's a combination of money, talent, and a lot of companies that are open to try new technologies. So you really have this perfect triangle that facilitates an amazing, amazing space for startups to rise. Stream Once would not have started, would not have, we wouldn't get funded, we would not have customers. I know it. So yeah, I think that maybe a very good recipe is to grow up in Israel, go through whatever you go through, get the maturity, and then when you're 30 something,
leave.
No, I'm joking. That's
well,
my
but does it still hold true though? Is San Francisco still going to be that way, right? Is Silicon Valley right now, all we're seeing on LinkedIn is people saying, I left San Francisco 3 months ago and I'm never going back, and I don't need to, because employers are going to be sourcing talent all over the world. I mean, those of us in business travel are saying, well, that sounds interesting, because now we're going to have more virtual workers than we've ever had before, and they're going to need to get together. Yeah. And we're happy to help them do that when it makes sense. So, but, I mean, is that even going to be real anymore, that you need to go, dodge those minefields we all know about on the sidewalks of San Francisco to like network anymore? Is that even, I mean, is Utah going to be the new, place, or are we just all going to be virtual and talent is going to be where they're at? You're going to be more worried about time zones than actual geographic location of the people you want to partner with.
Actually,
I vote for Utah, for Park City, Utah. I like.
Actually, I have a few things
there.
I have a few things to say about that, actually. So I've spoke with a few friends of mine who are executives in big enterprises here in Israel, and they are very consistent in their perspective. They all see at least a 20% uptick in workplace efficiency. So they see more work being produced, even though people are working from home and they have their family in the background, somehow without going for long lunches, because they don't have a lot of people to go to lunch with, and without all the social distraction. It seems like they're being able to pull off more work. That's one thing I have to say about it. And the second thing, I think, a little bit contrary, I'll try to be the young, brash innovator with contrarian opinions. Regarding what you all have mentioned, all of the panelists have mentioned before during the panel, that duty of care has become your first priority. I think that if I were in your shoes, I would have looked at I'm a really big fan of Clayton Christensen, or the late, in the last year he has passed away, of his literature. He speaks a lot about the jobs to be done. And if I were in your shoes, I would have took a deep look at what are the jobs to be done that corporate travelers have been used you for, or what were they using corporate travel for? So facilitating business meetings, facilitating sales, facilitating trade shows, all the different types of corporate travel reasonings. I would have tried to, as a travel management company, I would have tried to solve the same jobs to be done in the new environment. I know that Zoom comes to mind when trying to do the same thing, but I think corporate travel companies, travel management companies have a leg in front of Zoom in understanding the data behind why people are doing the corporate travel. What are they trying to achieve? I think you are in a better place to resolve issues that people are not even thinking of yet.
Perfect. So do you guys have any questions, Miriam, Utpal, Ilan, to any of the product that you have seen, maybe something very specific? We don't have much time, and obviously we can put you in touch with any of them, or anybody from the audience that want to get in touch with any of this company.
Quick comment. If you guys, first of all, you guys were great. Thank you so much for presenting. Really appreciate it. If you guys don't mind sending a copy of the deck that you presented, that would be wonderful.
I'll also say I thought it was great, and you picked 3 good ones. And I just want to tell you, I just wrote a few notes here.
We only have good ones. We could have only
sort of
3
your
because
job
we have no time
to get it right. You don't get extra points for doing it right, right? So I was delighted to see contact center technology. You know, we still manage contact centers, and they're multiple mode contact centers, but now is the time when I said optimize. The ability to start being really sophisticated in our contact center technology. I think that's, a lot of us are looking at that right now. I know this is like the 3rd or 4th contact center tech related stuff I've seen in just the last like 4 or 5 days. So I think it's really interesting to see that, especially because I think those of us that manage large contact centers, they're all virtual now, which is a new thing. But we're also looking at how do we repurpose them? How do we take this staff, this skilled set of staff that we have, state-of-the-art, you know, global telephony, et cetera, what else are we going to do with them? And so seeing guys like you work in that space helps illuminate for us how we might be able to take these 8,000-9,000 people we have that speak 100 languages, that are all over the world, right, that are very valuable, that are not booking travel right now. How else might we use them? And so contact center tech is something I think that's really important at this time. And RubiQ, you're chasing the dream that many before you have tried, right, and continue to. So best of luck to you. It is right now, I see an air IROPS product, which is exciting, but there's lots of them. Until you blend in, put me on a train instead. Get me to a rental car counter and get me on the highway to get to Boston from New York City instead of the shuttle that's not running because it's snowy. You know, like those intermodal solutions is really the next step. But it looks beautiful, and it's exactly kind of the way we expect these things to look. So bravo. But all 3 of you guys are great. And a side note on production, I like the recorded demo. As a viewer, it was tight. And I'm assuming you guys got to rehearse and script and everything, so I thought it was good. So thanks.
And we edited as well. Ilan, any comments?
Yeah, it was great. I liked it.
No, I really enjoyed the pitches. Very tight, obviously 3 bright entrepreneurs. I met Amos actually just 2 weeks ago, completely independently of this panel. I took notes, and I would, if you are going to share those decks, I would be happy to get all of them.
We'll share it with you. And again, any one of the participants, if you just email us, we'll share it with you. And we're also recording this, and we have it as a deck and as a video, you know. So Utpal, any other questions?
No other questions. You guys are fantastic. I'm just echoing what Miriam and Ilan said. You guys did a great job. Nice work.
So let me finish just with a couple of two quick questions. The only thing, I will throw something at you, and you will have to tell me which one you prefer. Like, so for example, face-to-face meeting or virtual meetings?
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
Always face-to-face, always.
Face-to-face, no doubt.
Miriam, do you agree? You love the Zoom. You said you get so much done. You don't want to ever meet anyone else.
I haven't shaken a hand since 2017.
Okay, for the TMC of you, is it Amadeus or Sabre? If you don't want to answer, skip.
Move on.
Okay.
Maybe the answer is neither.
All, or whatever, or maybe not, I don't know. Not my view.
Zoom, Facebook, Google or Apple on virtual meetings?
Zoom.
Google.
Zoom.
Zoom, hands on.
Very good.
And they are a customer.
And I'm just gonna give you
Skype.
three different things. I'm gonna throw at you a word, and you need to answer to me with one word on this one. So we start with Utpal, travel agent. You need to say great, gone,
Intelligent.
furloughed.
No. Yeah, intelligent concierge.
Miriam,
I agree. Yes.
Ilan, travel agent.
Yeah, you know that's one of this industry is so rooted. I think the way what we travel agent in TripAction, it's basically a it's
That's
just
more than one word. One word.
personalized service.
Perfect. So OBT, online booking tools. Utpal, one word.
Again, I would say intelligent and responsive.
Miriam.
You're looking at me. I'm not prepared for this.
Ilan.
Online booking. Asynchronous.
Ilan. You can say dated. Shitty.
There's nothing that I can say now that people would even listen to. Online booking tool, yeah, there's a lot to be done. It needs to change.
Well, what is an online booking tool really anymore? I mean, what's an offline transaction versus an online transaction? I know it's like a false kind of thing we have to define. Like an online booking tool, it's like it might be used, it might not. Some of it might be booked on it, some not. Sometimes you use it for policy. What is an online? It's not what it used to be, right? It's a linear path of booking one piece to the next, right? I mean, Ilan's whole company could be called an online booking tool, but it's a lot more than that. It's a digital experience. One of the things you can do is book an airline ticket.
That was the longest one-word answer I've ever heard.
Well, I'll tell you, online booking tool. I think if
right?
you want to
don't worry. Next, we have to finish. Last but not least, this is specifically for Miriam, so you get it first.
No.
One word. November U.S. election.
Vote. It matters. That's 3 words.
Utpal. That's a movement. Ilan.
Vote.
Vote.
Anyone else? I would think crazy, maybe. Amazing. Challenging, but definitely vote. Okay.
The data shows that in times of uncertainty, the incumbent wins. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Unfortunately, but that's the data.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it depends who you are. Anyway, so again, thank you very much. Please contact us with any question. If you want to connect with anyone else that you weren't able to do it on yourself. Again, I thank you very much for your time preparing for this. This was our first one. We're going to do other like this in different area, in hotels, in online travel agencies, airline, etc., etc. So please join us in the future one. And if you need any help with innovation and meeting great startups, let us know. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for all the attendees. Bye-bye.